All right, so this is probably the most ambitious Makerspace at Home project that we have done so far. So when things get tough, just remember, eyes on the prize. It is worth all of the time and effort you will put into this. So cute. All right, so I'm gonna put this right behind me to remind us just how cute this is, so that we remember that it's all going to be worth it. You'll definitely want to set aside extra time for this project. Alrighty, so for this project, normally our programs don't take more than maybe an hour to construct. This one you're going to want to set aside extra time, possibly do it over the course of a few days, just to make sure you give time to make the glue dry, especially when you're constructing the box with the tacky glue. You definitely want to let that part of the project dry overnight at least. But let's go ahead and get started with Oliver's Department Store. That's going to be the first one we'll tackle because that one is tricky. So once you've got one of the tricky bits done, then it will all be smooth sailing from there. Now, I'm not going to show you every single aspect because otherwise this would be an incredibly long video and that's very boring to watch. But the good news is you have very, very detailed instructions in this little packet that you've received to help you with every step of the way. Alrighty. So for this one, you're going to need your glue and your scoring tool. And you will need a large flat work surface. Give yourself a lot of room for this program. There's a lot of like little bits and pieces. And one thing you don't want to do is open all of these bags at once because there's so many little pieces. You definitely want to make sure that you only work on one of these at a time. Alrighty. So here we are with Oliver's. This is vaguely inspired by Harry Potter. So this one is a kit that was purchased from Etsy called Little London Alley. If you want to check it out or purchase more. Okay, so you will notice on some of the kits that we're about to put together that there will be lines down to show you where to score. In this particular one, this paper is already scored for us. So you might find that on some of your pieces. So, hang on, let me remove a cat. Come on, Woodgie. I know. There we go. All right, so let's get started. Oh, in your kit, you will also find that you have this white sheet of opaque paper that's kind of shiny on one side. This is great for putting underneath your project while you're gluing so that this glue doesn't stick to your table. Very important. Okay, so these lines that are already scored for us means this is exactly where we are going to fold. We're just going to make sure that we have a nice firm crease in there on both sides. And we're going to go ahead and get started gluing some of these pieces on. Now, with some of them, you'll see part of this kit is already done for me. That's because when making this video, we want to make sure that it doesn't take forever to watch it. So you can find the little tiny brown rectangles and use the glue to put it right over the top of the Oliver sign. To open up your glue, you're just going to use the little trigger and push it to the side, and it'll have that little tape part showing. Now I got cat fur. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and attach these first. These are probably the fiddliest step. So for here, you're going to notice that this part is going to kind of curve around. So we want to make sure that we pre-curve these around something that is already circular. Now, if you have the edge of your table is kind of circular, you can just do that. I'm using the edge of my table here. You can use a large marker, even a large barreled curling iron, anything like that, to just get a little bit of a bend in there to make it easier once you are attaching this to the base of the building. Okay. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so right before we attach, what we're going to do is make our little windows. Now, also included in your kit is this other sheet or two of tracing paper. So this is going to be our window. Not included in your kit, but you will need is a pair of scissors. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball this and see how much I need for this window, and then I'll just trim as needed. All right, so our pieces are cut. So we're going to be making windows for each of these, plus this top window and the door. So just go ahead and cut those out, and then we're going to attach them with our little glue. So this glue is great because all you have to do is run it across the seams. You can get right on the edge here. Make sure you get the top, bottom, and sides. And then go ahead and glue that on. Now this dries almost immediately, so you want to make sure that you get it set right the first time that you put it on. Okay. And that glue is going to stay sticky, so it doesn't ever really dry out. For example, if you work very quickly, if you make a mistake, you can still save it. There we go. Ah, good, good, good. All right, and just press it down. Make sure you have no gaps. And then we have our tiny little window. All right, and then we're gonna do our door and top window. For this, I'm just gonna lay this part flat, face down, and just glue it to the back. And then press it down. let's go ahead and glue down that top window. Now, we're going to have several of these pieces throughout. This one is already done for you and glued down. So all you have to do is follow the little lines that are already printed at the bottom of your little window. And you're going to make a sill by using your scoring tool on those lines and then folding each piece up until you have a square, and then using the glue to make a tiny little dab of glue, and you can see just exactly how this is kind of folded in, and that glue will keep it there. So then you have a really nice tiny little 3D window ledge. That technique you'll be using on several pieces within the entire project. So I think almost every single building has a little window ledge. So just to make sure we don't have glue all over the face of our project, we're going to make sure that we put the glue on the back side of the window so nothing's showing. And then we're going to stick this on. Just press it very gently. Make sure that it's stuck on there nicely. Now we're going to do the door after we put on these bay windows, because the door has a tiny little handle and that is very fiddly. Okay, so we're going to use our scoring tool on this. And what we want to do is make sure that we've scored right from, oh, actually, we don't need to score. This is pre-scored for us too. That's very nice. We want to make sure that we fold right on this line where that score already is. And this is the tab that's going to hold the door in place, the window rather, in place. Okay. If you have any residual glue left over from putting the see-through tracing paper down, make sure you don't get it stuck to the tracing paper on this side of the window. This tab is actually going to be holding that window in place. Okay. So we want to make sure it's folded nice and tightly. Good, right on that line. Okay, so this tricky bit. Remember I said we were gonna make sure this is a little bit rounded first. You can just kind of like press it and hold it for a few minutes to get that nice round kind of shape to it. It doesn't have to, it's not gonna stay that way, but that's okay. We're just kind of coaxing it into a shape so that we can put it in our building. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of these, and then of course the other piece goes on exactly like that. All right, so these two pieces are going to fit right inside of here. And we're just going to pinch this and fit both sides right in there. Don't worry, this is one of the trickiest bits of the entire project. Ah, I see, you guys, this is the problem. I bent these in the wrong direction. No worries. All we have to do is fold it over to the other side. And if you get stuck with any part of this, all you have to do is refer back to the very detailed directions that you have. Okay, much better. Okay, it should look like that with the tabs bent forward. I'm so sorry. Okay, here we are. Let's try this again. Okay, we're getting there. Good. Okay, so once you've popped it in, it should look just like that. Now, to make it more stable, we're just going to make sure that we glue these tabs down. So very gently, we're going to take our glue and just run it down. Now, it does make wrestling it into the frame a little bit more difficult, but you could probably put the glue on before you pop it in there. There we are. Okay. All right, and there's our little window all glued down. Okay, so now we have both sides done. So the only thing left is our door, which unfortunately my little doorknob is already on here, so I won't be able to show you how to make the doorknob, but that's okay. You can set this one aside for now until we do the next project, which will have the door handle on it, so you can learn how to do that before you attach it to here, which will be so much easier than trying to attach the doorknob when it's already, the door is already attached to the building. Okay, so these little pieces are pretty self-explanatory. All you're gonna do is on that little line that's already marked for you, just go ahead and fold that tab in, do it on both pieces, and then your glue is going to go right on this side. And these are the tops of our windows. So we're just going to glue that down. You can kind of slip your finger behind the door and just press down, make sure that it's, and if that is still not behaving, you can always put a little dab of glue on the top of that flap on the other side so that it sticks. And then just press and hold it for a second. Good. All right. Last but not least, we have our Oliver's Storefront sign. So with this one, the line that's already printed in your paper, go ahead and fold that down, and that's going to be our tab where we're going to attach it. And we're going to put a little dab of glue right here to make sure our sign sticks nicely. And this is going to go right underneath our window, about 1 brick down. Good. Excellent. Okay, so there we have it, our first completed storefront. All right, so Now that we have our Oliver's storefront finished, now we're going to go ahead and get started on the newspaper. It is right in your instructions should you need to refer to them, which I encourage you to because we're just giving you a quick overview with this video. Otherwise it would be 4 hours long. So you definitely want to make sure that you read through the instructions as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know step 1 says to fold your building first. Personally, I find it easier if you attach your tracing paper. And again, in the instructions, the tracing paper bits are all going to be called vellum, but we used tracing paper instead to save some money. So there we are. So you'll notice that one of these sides has what we're going to call score lines. Those are the lines that we are going to fold along. So make sure, that's going to be the back side. So make sure you go ahead and attach your pieces to the line side up. So I've gone ahead and pre-cut some of that tracing paper. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that to go ahead and get started. All right, now that we have our little windows attached, we're going to go ahead and start scoring. So you will need something with a straight edge, like a ruler if you have one. If not, I'm probably just going to use the edge of my scissors or anything like that. And all we're going to do is line that up with, actually, that is too crooked. In fact, the edge of a book is going to be perfect for this. All right, so we're going to use the edge of a book. And you'll notice that there's 2 little sides to your scoring tool. One is going to be smaller than the other. Use the smaller side for your scoring. So all you're going to do is take that little ballpoint and run it over that line a few times. Now this is sturdy cardstock, but you don't want to separate these 2 pieces. You just want to put a dent in that line so that it's easier to fold. So go ahead and do that with all of these lines, and go ahead and give them a good score with your scoring tool. Okay, so now that we have all of our score lines scored, it's gonna be time to go ahead and start folding. So just like in the instructions, what we want is the top of this storefront to be a little bit 3D dimensional. So you're gonna fold right along that score line and then fold again so that this pops out. And then go ahead and fold these side flaps in, and then the little tabs at the end of the side flaps, because that's where we're going to attach it to our black foam board. Okay, should look just like that. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier because our score lines aren't as apparent, but you can start with these little side flaps here. So these little tabs need to be scored. These 2 bottom tabs are going to be scored right across here. Then you're going to score right along, right where the roof meets the side of the building on both sides. And then we're going to go ahead and get started attaching it to our blue part of the building. Okay, so go ahead and fold along those score lines. So you've got the 2 sides plus the tabs folded. These little guys are going to dangle down for a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and attach this to the top. So we're going to put some glue down. Okay. Oh, yeah, we don't want any of that blue showing if possible. Okay. But it's okay because we're going to put a little window frame over it anyway. Okay. So these little flaps are going to go right in here. So before you do that, you want to make sure you put some glue on there to hold it down. And the same to the other side. Okay, so next we are going to attach our door, but first our door handle. So remember I said in the last part, this is going to be a tiny bit tricky. You're going to need the glue and, believe it or not, your scoring tool for this, but you're not going to score anything. The first thing you're going to do is, because this is 3D, this teeny tiny little piece, let's see, I'll put something behind it so you can see it. This is our door handle. So we're going to take the two end pieces and just give them a tiny bit of a fold. And that's where they're going to stick down. Okay, and then just like we did with the Oliver's window frames, those little curving bay windows, we're gonna gently give a little curve to our door handle. Okay, now we're gonna add some glue, but only to those tiny little end pieces, because the rest of it is going to pop out. So we don't want to get glue on the rest of it. And to make sure that handle keeps its shape, I'm actually going to use the edge of our scoring tool to keep that little angle in there. So now I'm also going to use a scoring tool to press down a little bit on the top and bottom of the handle to really make sure that glue is going to stick and hold. And there you have it, 3-dimensional door handle. Great. All right, so next up, we're just going to attach our door frame and our door. Okay, so that was easy. We just glued our door down, make sure that little window is peeping through, and then put our door frame right around it. Okay, so next is that windowsill. Now the windowsill is similar to the windowsill at Oliver's. It's the same design that we've seen before. So if you have not done the Oliver's part yet, and you were waiting to see how this one gets done, we're gonna do it together right now. So this is already scored for me, but you're gonna use your little scoring tool and very delicately score all 4 lines and then the 2 tabs on either side of the windowsill. If you score too hard, you might have the issue that this has where it's about to break off. So do not score too hard with this one. So we are going to go ahead and fold all of these little pieces so that they make about a little box shape, just like that. And then we're going to use our tabs to hold it in place. So before we tuck those tabs in, we do want to pre-fold them before we tuck them in. And then before we tuck, we're also going to put some glue on the ends to really hold it down. Okay. This part is tricky because it's so tiny, but it can be done. All right. Great. So I'm just pushing down on this little tab, and I'm going to very gently nudge it into place. This is where this tool comes in handy, multi-purpose. Okay, so now we've got a nice square side. And we'll get the other one over here. Okay. Make sure you get the bend in the tab before you glue is crucial step here. And when in doubt, you can use the scoring tool to hold it in place until the glue is dry. And our other side popped out. This part is tricky, but it's so worth it to have that little 3D look in the windowsill, and it looks really good. Okay. All right, and now we have our little 3D windowsill. Okay, so I've gone ahead and scored our roof right along those scoring lines that are already pre-printed, and we're going to add our little roof onto our building now. Oh, if you notice any of the glue popping up, go ahead and give it a press down. Okay. All right, so we're going to fold along this scoring line. It's going to be the peak in our roof. And then these little lines get folded inwards. And then the little tabs at the end. And we're going to go ahead and attach that to our roof. Now I like to lay it down first before I put the glue on, just in case, so I know exactly how it's going to fit. Okay, good. So go ahead and put some glue right on those tabbed pieces. Yep. Better. Okay. This way it'll stay put. All right, so laying it building side down will give you the opportunity to press those edges and that way it'll seal a little bit better. Okay. There's our news front so far. We still have to add the sign out front and the roof. The shingles, rather. We just put the roof on. Okay, so all of these tiny little pieces here are your shingles. They get laid down one by one. We're gonna do a couple together, and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So these are going to be an overlay pattern. So you'll notice there's two, wait, hang on. Right, there's one size of shingle. Okay, good. And it looks like there's 4 per row. And then they want you to cut one shingle in half for that second row. And that is so that it looks a little bit more authentic. All right, so we're gonna lay down our first 4 shingles, and I'm just gonna put down a little line of glue. There we go. And I'm gonna let them hang over the edge a little bit because it looks nice. I don't know if you can see that. Good. Oop, that's 2. Okay. Don't worry if a few pieces are a little bit crooked, it'll give it some character. All right, so I'm gonna take one of my shingles and I'm just gonna cut it in half. Remember, this is only for every other row. I'm gonna put a little line of glue, and we wanna make sure these shingles overlap. So some of this glue is gonna be on the tops of those other shingles. Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna start with one of those half shingles. And I want the flat side to be facing toward the front of the building. Let's slide that a little bit farther down. Good. And then we just lay regular shingles next to it. When we get to the end of our row, we're going to use one more half shingle, the other one we just cut. And again, the flat side is going to go towards the edge. All right, should look just like that. All right, so I'll let you do the rest of that. And remember, we don't need both sides, just the side that's going to be facing out. And since this building is going to be facing this way, we only need to do one side. Okay. Okay. So there's the side of our building completed. Now I did not use up all of the shingles. I probably could have made them closer together to look a little more detailed, but I think it'll be okay. All right, so I've already gone ahead and glued our little courier signs front and back. So we're now just going to finish up by attaching the sign and these little guys to the two ends over here. So you'll see that there's little pieces to be folded. They're already pretty self-explanatory. Go ahead and fold those in. Put a little dab of glue on each side and attach them. Okay. And our little sign attaches exactly like it did for Oliver's. We're going to fold in that one side of the tab, put a little dab of glue on the folded side, and then we're going to hang our sign. Good. Okay, and this is going to hang off the end, attach it to that white part of the building, and there we have it. There's our courier. All right, last but not least, we are going to do our sweet shop. It is by far the most colorful. You'll notice when you start laying out your pieces that you're going to have a whole bunch of tiny little bits that look a little bit like confetti, but these are going to be the bricks of our storefront. So you want to make sure that while you're separating your pieces out, that you rescue this little guy right here. That is going to be our door handle, just like we made that tiny little door handle for the newspaper shop. We're going to do that again on this project. Okay. So once you've laid out all of your pieces, we are going to go ahead and work on that bay window first. And that's going to be taking a piece of our tracing paper, and we're going to start putting that behind it to make our window. All right, so I've gone ahead and just made sure that we have our windows in place already. And then I've attached it to our little candy, oops, this side, candy storefront. Now you'll notice that with this window, the score lines are not already on there. So I took the liberty of already putting them on mine so you could see where they folds go. So we have the two little tabs up top that get folded back, the very top of the store, and there's two folds here on the side, so that it becomes a little 3D pop-out window. All right. So the little tabs go up, and we are going to attach our little storefront window. It goes on the left side of the candy shop. Now I have not put any glue down yet because I want to see exactly how these pieces are going to fit. And just like Oliver's storefront, I folded these in the wrong direction. So this is a good reason not to put glue down first. Okay, so these little flaps are going to get folded this way. And that is the absolute outermost flaps on the two sides. Okay. All right, so now that we know exactly how that folds, we're going to go up and put some glue down. I'm just going to put it on either side of our window and a little across the top. Nope, got a little bit extra. Okay. Alrighty. that is easier to attach from the front. Okay. So I'm going to fold the tabs in first. Those get folded forward, the top tabs. And they fit behind so that our window pops out. And the side tabs get pushed to the back and then folded in. Okay, so we're going to bring those to the back. And once they're in place, we're going to push them down into the glue. And the same with the top tabs, push them down into the glue. Okay, and we should have our little 3D window. And I just realized that I jumped the gun with our window on top. Guys, if you're doing this at home, don't attach this part of the window just yet. We've got to put our little fold in. So thank goodness it hasn't been on there that long, and I'll be able to reuse this piece. But we give you plenty of extra for mistakes. It's gonna happen. It's all right. Alrighty. So I've taken the liberty of already putting that door handle on since you've already seen how to do it. So once again, you're gonna use your scoring tool to hold the little doorknob in place while you glue down the two ends of it. And we're gonna go ahead and attach that now. Now I've already put the little window behind it. Okay. All right, we have our door down. Okay, so now before we put our little roof peak on, we are now supposed to score the sides of it. That way we know where all of the folds are before we have the little stones on. Okay. So this piece again has no scoring lines. So we're going to put them in ourselves. It looks like we have 2 tabs on the side, 1 score line going down this way, so that's 2 on each side. And then it looks like we should have 1 at the top and 1 on each side. So pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and get started scoring. Okay, so there we have it, all of our score lines in place. Now I have folded mine down, but not too tightly because we still need to glue the fake stone front onto the building, and I want to make sure that I can put it around this fold as easily as possible. Okay, so that is our next step. Now in the instructions, she recommends that you sort all of your stones out by color. So if you want, you can make little piles. But I'm just gonna glue mine in place as I feel like it. So there's no right or wrong here, whichever you think looks best. And you might not even use all of these little stones. It's completely up to you. All right, but you do want to make sure that you wrap some around the corner of the building so that it looks 3D when you're looking at it once it's all set up. So I'm going to put my glue on each individual stone because it will stick best that way. And I'm going to do one right here by the bottom of the door. I'm gonna work probably from the bottom up. Just make sure you don't get any beyond this edge, because this is the side that's going to get glued right to our black foam core. Okay? All right. So go ahead and glue some stones down. Okay. So I've rearranged all my little bricks in the front of my sweet shop. And now it's time to attach that peak of the roof. Now this piece does not have score lines on it, so we're going to go ahead and put them in ourselves. And there's only 2 in this piece. So one from here to here and here to here, and this is going to make the peak of our roof. So I've already made my score lines. I'm going to go ahead and fold those. Oh, I'm sorry. And one more score line, of course, is the center, the fold line where we're going to have our peak. All right, so that goes right up and down the center of the triangle. Now, of course, at home you can use a book or a ruler or any kind of straight edge here. Now, I'm just running this slightly over a couple times to get a nice crisp line. Make sure it's kind of even. It's good. Okay, and then we're going to fold these tabs in. Now these tabs are going to go to the back, and that's what we're going to glue down. All right, so in her direction, she says you might need to cut a tiny slip at the top of the triangle to get it to fit. I think I'm going to just snip this little edge off here just for that purpose. I think that would make it easier. Don't worry, there's still plenty to glue down. Okay. Okay, now I already have glue down on mine. You want to make sure that you have glue to put that down. Alrighty. And there's our roof peak. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add our little window to the back of this. If you haven't already done so, you can go ahead and add the window behind the door. I've already done that on mine. Oop, there we go. All right. Okay, and there we have it. All we have left to do is glue our little sweet shop sign on, last but not least, and there's our sweet shop all set to go. Alrighty, so the last step, of course, was making our little pub face, but by now you know all of the techniques that we used to make the other pieces. Nothing new on this one. So you can go ahead and make that one on your own. And once you've made all 4 storefronts, it's time to turn all of our little pieces into this. All right, so this is just a little decoration to sit on your bookshelf in between your books and look very pretty. All right, so go ahead if you haven't already done it already, and insert the batteries into the little battery pack. You can turn on your little fairy lights, make sure they glow, make sure they work. We'll be putting those in soon. Okay. And go ahead and attach your brick to one of the longer, skinnier pieces of your foam board. This is going to be the floor of your book nook. So that's our little brick street. Now in your kits, you will have tacky glue to use to assemble your pieces. I don't have tacky glue, so I'm going to be using a hot glue gun. Now if you have a hot glue gun at home, you can go ahead and use that if you like. It will save you some drying time because the hot glue will dry almost instantly. The tacky glue, you will have to let dry overnight. So when you get to assembling the box of your pieces, make sure that you give it ample time to dry. You will also want to prop it up with maybe some books on either side of it, and possibly something very light, maybe one like light paperback on top, to keep the glue down on the roof of your book nook. All right, now before we assemble the box, we actually need to attach the pieces of our little village. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Now for this part, you can use your vellum glue. Since I've used that for several book nooks now, I ran out. So I'm going to be using the hot glue gun to attach our pieces. But you can use the little glue on the tape dispenser if that makes more sense, probably. Okay. All right, so I'm going to lay out the pieces that I need on either side, just as they're going to line up in the little book nook itself. And the reason for that is this can get really confusing really quickly as to what goes where. And I have definitely glued pieces on backwards in our test run. So we want to try to not do that. All right, well, you can all see. Okay, good. Alrighty, so in this order, the sweet shop is going to go first on the left-hand side. The little Oliver's building is going to go next to it. Oh, my broken cauldron sign is falling off. Okay. The broken cauldron is going to go all the way at the end here, and our courier is going to go next to it. Now the buildings are going to not line up totally completely. The sweet shop actually goes in a tiny little bit on the left-hand side. And you'll notice that we have these tabs on every single building, just like these. And this is where your glue is going to go so that you can glue them down. Now remember with the sweet shop, we have those little bricks on the sides. You want to make sure you make that fold nice and crisp, and then make sure that the bricks that you have that might be overlapping all fold across as well, because these are going to get glued down to the foam board. And on this side. Okay. So we're going to start with the sweet shop. And I just want to make sure that I make these folds nice and crisp and that no bricks pop off. Now I'm doing this kind of quickly. I should have allowed a little bit more time for the glue to dry. So you might want to, when you're doing this at home, make sure that you allow enough time, at least a few hours, in order to let this glue really set and take hold. Okay. So we're actually going to hot glue just the left side of the sweet shop and the right side of Oliver's. And then we're going to leave these two pieces open to put the lights behind them. So let's go ahead and do our sweet shop. Now I'm only going to do the tabs on the left-hand side. Okay. Now the sweet shop does not have to be all the way to the edge, just the broken kettle on the other side. So I actually have a little bit of a gap right here, and that's a good thing. Now we want to glue down just the right side tab of Oliver's. Now the buildings don't have to go exactly next to each other. There can be a tiny little like finger-sized gap. You do want to make sure that you get the buildings all the way to the bottom of the foam board though. Alrighty. So we're going to do the same thing on this side, but we're going to start with this edge of our broken kettle. And this time it's going to go right up against the edge of the board. Now, of course, if you're using the tape dispenser glue, it's going to dry instantly and you can attach it. If you are using hot glue like I am, you're going to want to hold it for a moment. If you are using the tacky glue, you're going to want to hold it for a little bit more than a moment. And again, these are about a finger width or so apart. So about like so. Now you might notice that these don't quite line up, that Oliver's goes almost all the way to the edge. and the courier does not, but that's okay because our mirror is going to be on an angle. So that is a good thing. You don't want these to be right across from each other. You want them a little bit staggered. Okay, so now I'm going to put the glue just on these tabs here for our courier. So that's the left-hand side of the courier. Okay, I'm going to make sure that's glued down. Now if you want, you can actually open this up and just slide your finger down, make sure that glue is sticking. You can also use your scoring tool and just slide it right up into the building and make sure that glue is down nice and solid. Okay, now we are going to add our lights. Now in the instructions, you'll see that the lights are positioned so that the control, go ahead and put your batteries in if you haven't already, is towards the front. But when we made ours, we made it towards the back. So whichever your preference is, you can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to unstring this. All right, so now we are going to, once again, try to attach our lights to our foam board behind our buildings. Okay. I'm having technical difficulties because my glue gun is about to run out of glue. This is probably much easier with the tacky glue. Okay. Now make sure, before you move on to the next piece, that all of your windows are lit up sufficiently. I'm just going to give this a moment to make sure everything is glued down. Okay. I'm going to bend that wire to make sure it's kind of trailing along the bottom so it's not seen. And I don't want any lights, any of those little lights between the buildings. Okay. I think that needs a little bit more light. Just going to press this down and hold it. And give it a moment to dry before I move on to the next piece. Alrighty. Now give it a quick look and make sure that your windows are lit. Okay, now we're going to bring it around and to the other sides. Now I'm going to try to leave enough for mine to go through the back as well. Don't worry about the little lights that are going across your brick roadway because the mirror will cover them. Okay, it looks like my my battery pack is going to come out the front. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on that and glue it down. Alright, and I'll want this battery pack to be able to come out the front over here. So I'm just going to squish up these lights behind our broken kettle, and then we'll be at the end. Well, you don't need to watch me watch glue dry, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now all that's left is to glue our box together. I went ahead and gone and glued all of the sides down since I was done putting my lights on. And I'll let that hot glue dry so you can see these are nice and sturdy. So I'm going to start with the left side, and I'm going to do a thin line of glue right down this foam board. And I'm going to put it all the way to the edge of this and then tamp down. Now with the tacky glue, this part is going to take overnight to dry. If you are using a hot glue gun, it dries very quickly. Looks like that is already kind of stable. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and glue down the other side of our foam board. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and attach the lid because it's exactly like the other two pieces, and then we'll do the mirror next. Okay, we are on the finish line. So I hope you found it worth the wait. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is add the mirror, and it's the last step. So go ahead and pull the film off your mirror. Nice and shiny. Now you will need to trim a tiny little bit. I took a tiny little sliver off the side and a tiny little sliver off the top, but you can go ahead and position it in your box to see exactly how much you need to take off. I cut it with just a pair of scissors and it worked just fine. Now, because it's such a snug fit, you won't even need to glue this in place. It will just stay in place. And we are going to install this at an angle. So, here's my box. Light pack. This is the back. So you can see the back of the Courier and Oliver's. And this is where it's going to go. Now remember, I said before it's going to go at an angle. So we are going to make sure that it looks exactly like our model on this side. Now again, I just don't have the battery pack back there. Just like that. So you can see it's at an angle, that mirror. And that is to create that optical illusion that the street turns a corner. Okay. Let me angle this down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my mirror in. Now I want it in front of these two little lights on the bottom, so that they're not just hanging out there. Now, if you are using the tacky glue to have assembled your box, you want to make sure that you do not put the mirror in until the following day. Okay, almost in there. Okay, so it stays in place pretty nicely without me having to glue anything. Okay, moment of truth, you guys. All right, let's see. All right, so it should create the optical illusion that the street is turning a corner, and you'll be able to see the other side of the sweet shop, and it should look like a little street. Excellent. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this Makerspace at Home program, and join us next time for Light Up Lithographs. Thanks, and have a great day.